Look who survived the unsurvivable. Hello, beautiful disasters, you scarred masterpieces, you walking miracles wrapped in trauma turned titanium. Hello to the one they said wouldn't make it, the one they predicted would crumble, the one they watched with popcorn waiting for the breakdown that never came. Hello to you, yeah you, the one who handled that impossible like it was just another Tuesday, like it was nothing. Like your soul wasn't screaming the entire time. They're still trying to figure it out, still refreshing your page at 3 a.m., still asking each other in whispered group chats, how the F did they do that? How did they not break? How are they still standing, still smiling, still thriving after everything that happened? And the answer, the one that keeps them up at night, is simple. You're built F-keen different, and they just can't compute that kind of code. They don't have the capacity to understand what happens when a human being refuses to stay down, when someone takes the hit that should have ended them and instead uses it as a launch pad. Let me tell you what really happened. You didn't just survive. You didn't just endure. You didn't just get through it. You handled it like a beast, like a force of nature that doesn't ask permission from the storm. You walked through fire and came out forged. You stared into the abyss, and the abyss fucking blinked first. They thought they were watching your downfall, didn't they? They gathered like vultures, circling something dying. They leaned in close with fake concern, masking real curiosity, hoping to witness the collapse, the meltdown, the moment you'd finally prove you were human like them. Breakable, controllable, predictable. They wanted to see you shatter into a million pieces so they could catalog your fragments, study your weakness, feel better about their own inability to handle pressure. But instead they got front row seats to something they couldn't explain, something that violated their understanding of human limits. They watched you take damage that should have hospitalized your spirit, betrayal that should have poisoned your heart, loss that should have destroyed your will, pressure that should have crushed your mind, and you didn't just survive it, you metabolized it. You turned that poison into fuel, that pain into power, that breakdown into a breakthrough so violent it left scorch marks on their perception of reality. They're not just confused, they're terrified. Because if you can handle that, if you can walk through hell in gasoline-soaked clothes and come out untouched, then everything they believe about suffering, about limits, about what breaks a person, it's all a lie. And you're the living proof. Now they're scrambling, trying to reverse engineer what you did, asking each other what's their secret. What did they know that we don't? How did they access that level of strength? And the funny part, the part that'll haunt them forever, is that you didn't have a secret. You didn't have a manual. You didn't have some ancient wisdom or privilege or advantage. You just had one thing, the absolute refusal to let that moment define you. See, while they were preparing your eulogy, you were building your resurrection. While they were writing you off, you were rewriting yourself. While they expected you to beg for sympathy, you were busy becoming unsympathetic to weakness. You understood something they'll never grasp. That handling it like a beast doesn't mean you didn't feel it. Doesn't mean it didn't hurt like hell. Doesn't mean you weren't screaming inside. It means you felt every ounce of that pain and decided it wouldn't be the thing that stops you. You let it cut you open, and instead of bleeding out, you studied the wound, learned its anatomy, and used that knowledge to make sure nothing like that could ever cut that deep again. You turned your nervous system into armor, your trauma into training, your breakdown into a fucking masterclass in resilience. They don't get it because they're still looking for the moment you broke. They're still convinced there must have been a night you cried yourself to sleep, a moment you wanted to give up, a second where you felt weak. And yeah, maybe there were 1,000 of those moments. But here's what they missed. You never stayed in those moments. You visited hell, but you didn't move there. You touched bottom, but you used it as a springboard. You felt the weight of the world on your chest, and instead of suffocating, you bench pressed that shit until you got stronger. That's what they can't comprehend, that strength isn't the absence of struggle. It's the refusal to let struggle have the final word. It's looking at the impossible and saying, "Watch me anyway." It's taking the hit that should have ended the fight and turning it into round 2, round 3, round infinity, until your opponent realizes they're not fighting a person anymore. They're fighting a force that doesn't know how to quit. You became something else during that period, something they don't have a name for. You transcended their categories, shattered their expectations, evolved past their understanding, and now you walk around like a living question mark, a walking mindfuck to everyone who thought they had you figured out. Let's talk about what they saw versus what actually happened, because the gap between those two realities is where your legend was born. They saw you go quiet for a while. They saw you withdraw. They saw the smile fade and the energy shift. And in their minds, that was the beginning of your end. They started the countdown, taking bets on when you'd officially break, when you'd post that desperate cry for help, when you'd come crawling back to people who never deserved you in the first place. They waited for the drama, the public meltdown, the confirmation that you were just as weak as they needed you to be. But what they didn't see, what happened in the silence they mistook for surrender, was a complete demolition and reconstruction of your entire fucking identity. You weren't hiding, you were evolving. You weren't broken, you were breaking down. The old version of yourself that would have never survived what was coming. You were in the chrysalis, and they thought you were dead. They have no idea that silence isn't always defeat. Sometimes it's the sound of someone becoming dangerous. You were learning, absorbing, adapting, taking every lesson that pain had to teach and integrating it into your operating system. You were upgrading your emotional intelligence, sharpening your instincts, building walls where there used to be doors, creating distance where there used to be access. You were becoming selective, strategic, savage in your self-preservation. And then you emerged, different, colder, sharper, unreachable. You came back to the world not seeking approval, but radiating something they couldn't name. Authority, maybe, or certainty, or just the unmistakable energy of someone who's been to hell and took notes. They expected you to need them to want their validation, to seek their comfort, but instead you looked right through them like they were ghosts of a version of yourself you'd already buried. You didn't need their understanding because you'd transcended the need to be understood. You didn't need their support because you'd learned to be your own foundation. You didn't need their love because you'd found something better. Self-respect so deep it made their opinions irrelevant. And that shift from seeking external validation to embodying internal certainty, that's what they can't process. That's what keeps them up at night, wondering what the fuck happened to them. Who is this person? When did they become untouchable? The answer is simple. The moment you stopped giving a fuck about who was watching and started focusing on who was becoming, The moment you realized their opinion of your pain meant nothing compared to your decision to transform it. The moment you understood that handling it like a beast meant never letting them see you as prey again. They're asking the wrong questions though, aren't they? They're asking how did you do it, when they should be asking what did you become because of it? Because handling it wasn't just about surviving the moment. It was about using that moment to shed every weak, apologetic, people-pleasing version of yourself that would have kept you small. You didn't just get through it. You used it, weaponized it, turned it into the catalyst for the most violent self-evolution they'll ever witness. You took their worst moment, the thing they designed to destroy you, and you said thank you for the raw material, watch what I build with this. And what you built, what you're still building, it's not just impressive, it's intimidating. It's a version of yourself so upgraded, so unfuckable, with so clearly operating on a different frequency that they can't even pretend to relate anymore. You're not in their world now, you're not playing their games, you're not speaking their language. You've graduated to a level of consciousness they don't have access to. And all they can do is watch from the cheap seats and wonder how the FK someone goes from victim to villain to victor without ever asking for permission. See, what they really can't figure out is how you did it without their playbook, how you healed without therapy speak, how you rose without their approval, how you rebuilt without their blueprint. You didn't follow the script. You didn't post the inspirational quotes. You didn't document your journey for likes and sympathy. You just disappeared into your darkness and came back illuminated. You went silent and returned fluent in a language they don't teach, the language of self-mastery, of emotional alchemy, of turning curses into crowns. They're still looking for the secret, the hack, the shortcut, because they can't accept that the answer is something they'd never commit to. You simply refused to stay broken. You decided, in some quiet moment they'll never know about, that this thing, whatever it was, wouldn't be your ending. It would be your education. You didn't pray for it to be easier. You demanded to become stronger. You didn't ask why it happened. You asked what you could learn from it. You didn't seek comfort. You sought growth. And in that seeking, in that relentless pursuit of becoming someone who could handle anything, you became exactly that. Someone who can handle anything. Someone who doesn't flinch anymore. Someone who looks at catastrophe and sees opportunity. And now here you are, walking around like a living legend. Like someone who died and came back with cheat codes. Like the final boss energy everyone talks about but rarely embodies. You move different now, don't you? There's a weight to your presence that wasn't there before, a silence that speaks louder than words, a stillness that radiates danger. People feel it when you walk in a room, that shift in the atmosphere, that sudden awareness that someone real just entered, someone who's been through some shit. They don't know whether to fear you or respect you, whether you're a threat or a teacher, whether they should run from you or study you. And that ambiguity, that mystery, that's your power now. You're no longer an open book. You're an encrypted file they don't have the password to. You're no longer predictable. You're a wild card. You're no longer one of them. You're the exception that proves their rules don't apply to everyone. You're the glitch in their matrix, the bug in their code, the anomaly that shouldn't exist but does. And every time they look at you, they're reminded of their own limitations, their own fears, their own unwillingness to walk through fire like you did. They'll never admit it out loud, but they respect you now in a way they never did before. It's not the respect you earn through achievement. It's the respect you command through survival, through endurance, through the undeniable fact that you took their best shot and you're still fucking standing, still smiling, still thriving. They threw everything at you: betrayal, abandonment, sabotage, judgment, doubt, and you absorbed it all like a black hole and converted it into gravitational pull. Now you're the center of orbit. Now they revolve around you. Now your name comes up in conversations you're not even part of. Now they measure their own strength against yours and come up short every time. You've become the standard, the benchmark, the "if they can handle that, maybe I can handle this" reference point. Except most of them know deep down they couldn't. They know they don't have what you have. That rare combination of resilience and ruthlessness, of heart and steel, of vulnerability and invincibility. You're a paradox they can't solve, and paradoxes haunt people. Let me tell you what really happened in that moment when everything went to shit, the moment they're still trying to decode, dissect, understand. In that moment when the world expected you to collapse, something inside you made a decision. A quiet, irreversible decision that changed everything. You decided that this pain, this betrayal, this loss, this impossible fucking situation, it wouldn't get the privilege of breaking you. You looked at rock bottom and said, "Nice view, but I'm not staying." You felt the full weight of the suffering, and instead of being crushed, you compressed it into something dense, something powerful, something that would propel you forward with the force of a bullet. You didn't deny the pain. You didn't suppress it. You didn't pretend it didn't hurt. You just refused to let it be your identity. You refused to let it be your story's ending. You refused to give it more power than it deserved. And in that refusal, in that single moment of defiance against fate, against expectation, against the very laws of emotional physics that say certain things should break certain people, you became unbreakable, not because nothing can hurt you now, but because you've proven to yourself that even when things do hurt, even when they cut deep, even when they threaten to end you, you have the capacity to endure, to adapt, to overcome. That's the part they'll never understand. They think strength is about not feeling. You know better. You know strength is about feeling everything and choosing your response anyway. They think power is about dominance. You know it's about self-control. They think handling it like a beast means being cold, heartless, unaffected. But you know the truth. Handling it like a beast means being fully human, feeling every human emotion, experiencing every human vulnerability, and still making the superhuman choice to keep moving forward. You cried in private so you could smile in public. You broke down alone so you could stand tall in front of them. You processed the pain in the darkness so you could radiate light in their presence. You did the work they'll never see, the internal work, the shadow work, the brutal, honest inventory of your own role in your own suffering. You faced yourself in ways they never will, and that self-confrontation, that willingness to see yourself clearly and still choose to evolve, that's where the real transformation happened. That's where the beast was born. Now they watch you move through the world with this untouchable energy, and they can't figure out the source. They see the confidence, but not the countless nights of self-doubt you conquered. They see the strength, but not the moments of weakness you transformed. They see the success, but not the failures you learned from. They see the final form but miss the entire evolution. And that's fine. That's perfect, actually. Because you don't owe them your process. You don't owe them your story. You don't owe them access to your journey. All you owe them is the undeniable proof that you handled it, that you survived it, that you're here, alive, thriving, unbothered, and that proof is written all over your existence. In the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you no longer seek approval or explanation or validation from anyone. You've become self-sufficient in a way that terrifies people who still need external validation to feel real. You've become self-contained in a way that confuses people who still leak their energy everywhere. You've become self-made in a way that intimidates people who are still waiting for someone to save them. And here's the beautiful irony, the cosmic joke they'll never get. The thing that was designed to break you, the situation they thought would end you, the moment they gathered to watch your downfall, that became the exact catalyst you needed to become who you are now. Without that pressure, you might have stayed comfortable, stayed soft, stayed accessible to people who didn't deserve access. Without that pain, you might have never discovered this level of strength, never tapped into this reservoir of power, never unlocked this version of yourself that walks through walls like they're mist. They thought they were destroying you, but they were actually forging you. Every betrayal was a lesson in discernment. Every loss was a lesson in detachment. Every moment of suffering was a lesson in endurance. And you were the best fucking student. You absorbed every lesson, integrated every insight, applied every principle. And now you're operating at a level of mastery they can't even perceive. They're still stuck in victim consciousness, still blaming their circumstances, still waiting for life to be fair, still making excuses. And you transcended all of that. You stopped asking why and started asking what next. You stopped complaining and started conquering. You stopped being a passenger in your own life and grabbed the wheel with both hands. They want to know your secret so badly it's eating them alive. They want the formula, the strategy, the step-by-step guide to handling impossible shit like it's nothing. But there is no formula, there's no strategy, there's only decision. Decision after decision after decision. To keep going when everything in you wants to stop. To get up when staying down would be easier. To face forward when looking back would be more comfortable. To become more when becoming less would require less effort. You made those decisions in moments they'll never see. In the 4 a.m. darkness. When no one was watching, when there was no audience to perform for, no social media to document it, no validation to receive. You made those decisions in the silence, in the solitude, in the sacred space between who you were and who you were becoming. And that invisible internal work, that's where the magic happened. That's where the transformation took root. That's where the beast was born.